This week's podcast, Season 4, Episode 10. And welcome to Magic and Mysticism, the podcast. An SAM International Assembly Allied production. Starring Tommy Burnett, New York City's favorite mind reader. Where each week he talks with various mystery performers from all around the world. Streaming live. This week's guest is coin magician Danny Goldsmith. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show, while I introduce your host, Mr. Tommy Burnett.
Hello and welcome again to another episode of Magic and Mysticism, the podcast. My name is, and always has been, well, maybe not always, but my name is now Tommy Burnett, and I am New York City's favorite mind reader. And we have a great show lined up for you today. We have today one of the finest coin musicians probably in the entire world. This guy is what I like to call a beast. This guy is absolutely amazing. And when I say beast, I mean that with the utmost respect. He's done stuff that just blows people away, myself included. I really don't have too much to say other than that. Let's bring him out. The very talented Danny Goldsmith. Let's bring him out. There he is. Hey, Danny, how are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. It's such a pleasure. We already have a comment here. Let's see what we got. Okay. He's commenting on my fake library. Yes. But anyway, how did you get started in magic, and what made you decide on doing mostly coins?
Yeah. So actually, I do both coins and cards. I focus mostly on coins in terms of what I share with the magic community and magicians in general, just due to the fact that I felt like there was a lot of room for growth in coin magic in general. But my grandpa was a coin collector. I had a bunch of coins from when I was young. And at his funeral, I had a Walking Liberty $50 on me. And somebody came up and said, "Hey, can I see that?" And they did a piece of magic with it. And it was just a moment that really stuck with me. In a time where I was deeply sad. I was grieving for someone to really inject into that experience a sense of wonder and mystery was really helpful for me. And I saw the potential for that experience of magic, or that feeling of limitless possibility, of being such a valuable thing to offer people. And so I got hooked. I had coins, so I started playing around with coins. I actually found a copy of Bobo's in a bookstore, and I could not afford it at the time. We didn't have much money when I was young, so I'd go sit in the hear myself.
I can hear you.
No. I'm hearing myself repeated to me.
Okay.
I'm not sure why. Now I'm not.
Yeah, I don't think we can hear it.
I'd just go sit in the bookstore. I'd read as much as I could, remember as much as I could, and go home and practice, and then go back and sit in the bookstore in the corner for a couple hours, reading, studying, and practice some more. And so I really fell in love with coin stuff, but just as much card stuff. But here, I'm gonna warm these fingers up a bit, because I am gonna get to show you guys a bunch of really fun pieces of magic. So first, I'm gonna show you. This is a warm up I like to do. I will flash with this because it is a warm up. But the idea is to produce a coin from Masqué palm and rotate it. That's a copper silver coin. But let's see. That makes two. And I basically go through this process of producing and rotating a coin out of my escape home. So it makes 3. That makes 4, 5. These are dollar-sized coins. 6, and these are not stage coins. They're not like extra thin coins or anything. They're full-size coins. That's 7, and 8, and 9. I'm just kidding. There's 10, and 11, 12. There's 13. There's 13 dollar-sized coins. So.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing.
It's not a piece of magic, but shockingly enough, magicians are always so entertained by this. It's practically magic.
Yeah.
But this is my warm up. This is how I get my fingers moving. So,
Wow.
yeah, I like coins. I like particularly difficult stuff. I like really kind of in-depth sleight of hand and seeing how far I kind of push my limits with my fingers and my dexterity, which brought my interesting things. My grandpa being a coin collector and handing me down a bunch of coins. But my dad, as a kid, was a drummer, and he'd always spin a drumstick between his fingers or a pencil, and he had this kind of dexterity that I always admired. So I think there was a part of me that had coins, loved this experience of magic, and had this kind of deep fascination with sleight of hand due to the dexterity my dad was kind of showing off at times. So yeah, I think that's where I kind of got started for the most part. It looks like Tommy is loading. Maybe I'm still live. If I'm still live, I'll show you guys something. Might as well do something mildly entertaining. Sorry, thought I had a couple of those. Yep. This one. Okay. Oh, Tommy's messaging me. 1 second. Oh, his computer died. He'll be right back. That's all right. I will keep you guys entertained. I thought I had 2 of these. That's okay. They tend to slip through the hands, just like that. It's kind of odd thing. These coins also don't necessarily obey gravity. They were just pulled from space. They're not entirely real, right? Not in the way you would think, at least. Oh, yeah. Let me get another one of those. These actually make a pretty delicious snack. But you want to be, excuse me, Tommy's calling me. Hi.
Hey, my computer.
Yeah, I saw it. No worries, I'll keep them entertained.
Okay, thank you.
See you in a bit.
Okay.
But well, he'll be back. Anyways, sorry, I didn't eat lunch, so I'm gonna maybe snack on a few more of these. But you do want to be careful. These, even if they're not entirely real, will get stuck in your sinuses. It's yeah. I have boogers on my coins. That's kind of gross. You know, I'm gonna put it back. We'll just, yeah. There we go. Nope. Hold on. Same issue. Coin stuck in my sinuses. 1 second. There we go. And now back to boogers and coins, and let's just put this away. There we go. Yeah. There you go. There's a fun little piece of coin magic. Well, while we wait, I could do some card magic for you guys too. Let's see, what can we do with deck cards? Okie dokes. Randomly selected card. We will use the, no, not the Ace of Clubs. It's actually one of those cards that always gives me trouble. I'm not sure why that is, but just the case. So instead, we'll use the, I'm going to leave it face up in the middle. This way we'll know that it stays in the middle and it won't be able to cause any mischief for us, right? Stay. Yes. Oh, damn me. Excuse me. He's trying to get out. Stay. Somewhere in the middle. Good. As long as it stays in the middle, we don't have to. Okay. You know what? You, buddy, right there. You got to stay there. He's got to stay there. Let's try this again. We'll, yeah. You know what? Let's go right about there. Here we go. Nice. Now we can do this trick. Now that we got a card that's not the Ace of Clubs. Nope, this one's the Four of Clubs. Oh. Apologies. That ace is trying to get out again. Sorry, that's actually a bit sloppy. Should stick to coins. Yeah. Maybe should have used a less worn deck of cards for that, but that's okay. Well. Let's see, what can I show you guys? Oh, you know what? I have a new thing I was playing around with. This would be fun. Let's see. I have not shown this to many people at all because it is very new. We need a silver coin, a copper coin, and a Chinese coin. Chinese, copper, silver. Oh, and this one. This coin, very interesting coin. If you tap it on something, it becomes that coin. Pretty neat. I spun it around and I messed up my own trick. We're not off to a good start today, ladies and gentlemen. This is a new idea anyways, so I have not fully rehearsed it, which I should have just not shown that, but because if I'd rehearsed it more, I would have known not to flip over the copper silver coin. But okay, how about I show you guys something that is well practiced, and so that you can remain entertained while we wait for Tommy here. This one. Okay, good. You got one of these. So I'm just gonna stretch it out so you can see it. This is a silver dollar. I keep them hanging in space. It makes them very easy to access. At any point, you can take it, crush it down, take the little pieces, and hang them in the air. It's just kind of nice. At any point, you can take those pieces back and stretch them out, actually, and they will become full silver dollars, right? Which is pretty neat. So you take a piece, take it like so, you stretch it out. First, you gotta make sure it's balled up quite tight, but then you can stretch. There we go. A couple silver dollars. Now let's get a couple more because you hang a good bit of them in space in advance. And then this way you have just as much as you need at any given moment. If you need silver dollars, they're right there. It's a fun little thing. So let's there we go. Another silver dollar. There you go. Something a little more polished. It's always weird performing for a screen where I can't see anybody's comments or know if anyone's watching. I'm assuming we're still live because there's a little red thing in the upper corner here that says live, and that we've been going for 15 minutes and 34 seconds while we wait for Tommy to jump back on this call. So hopefully you guys saw that. Hopefully it's fun and you're mildly entertained. What else can we do? Yeah. Aha!
I am so sorry.
No worries. Things happen.
Thank you for entertaining
Yeah.
the masses. My I have a Mac, and the plug in my Mac keeps coming undone a little bit, so then the battery dies, and I don't realize it until it's too late. But anyway, let me
No worries.
open up my questions again, and you are an amazing guest for doing that, and I really appreciate it.
No problem.
And it looks like I might be lagging a little bit, but I hope not. Um, so, um, who were your influences?
Yeah. Yeah, Bobo was a big influence for me early on. David Blaine was a huge influence for me during on. I got started right around the time of the David Blaine special. One of that big first one, and so it was Magic was just kind of becoming really popular at that time, and there was all kinds of tutorials. So I mean, I'm of that generation that went on YouTube and learned a lot of things. A lot of people like to spit on that, but I think that you can learn good things from YouTube, and I think it can breed magicians who come into the industry and offer something more valuable down the line. But not everything is on YouTube, so you have to read books and all of that as well. So I loved studied Roth's work. Kainoa Harbottle was a big influence on me. Curtis Cam, Doc Eason, Eric Mead. Yeah, I mean the list goes on. There's so many great performers out there, but those are some of the main influences, I would say.
Yeah, right. Something I've been asking recently, and thing to think about is what is your goal in magic? In other words, what is it that you're trying to convey to your audience, and what do you want them to go home feeling?
Yeah. I feel like in a time where life is fast and people are very, very goal-oriented. Not that there's anything wrong with being goal-oriented, but never kind of resting in the present moment and appreciating, but always trying to get something more, get something else. We can get so caught up in our heads and our thoughts and our ideas about how things should be and we want them to be. And magic has this way of undercutting that and dissolving that mindset of how you think things are, and that sense of kind possibility, that sense of appreciation, mystery, or whatever one wants to call it, I think is a very valuable state of mind. And for me, that's the mindset I want to offer to spectators. I want them to be able to relax, kind of touch back into a type of childlike playfulness where you're engaged with the moment in a playful, imaginative way. Imaginative, not in the sense of out of touch with reality, but in seeing that any moment has infinite possibility and isn't limited by your ideas of what reality is and isn't. And I think magic has that ability to take what people think is real, the way people think things are, and pull that rug out from underneath them. And that if it's offered in a gentle way, it can be appreciated by the spectator, not as a challenge to their intellect, but as an insight back into this inherent quality of mind that is just so valuable and appreciative of the mystery and magic of life.
Wow, great answer. Yeah, I was telling you before, I was talking with a friend of mine about you and your work. And one thing that he really loves about you is the fact that you talk about the sense of wonder. And I know this wasn't in my questions, but I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about why that's so important.
Yeah. Huh. Why do we love the things that we love? That's a hard question, right? So I think it's so important as artists, or even just as human beings, really look at what is our motivation for everything we do, and then what is our motivation for that motivation? Where does that come from? To understand ourselves in that really the deepest possible way. And I've always had a deep fascination with the mind, with life, with you know, that sense of mystery and kind of profound openness, these states of consciousness that we can experience as human beings. Some people want to call that spiritual, some people would say it's very secular and human, but however you want to label it, just that deep appreciation for the immense beauty that is innate to reality. And the mind is is where we're viewing it all from. And I've always had such a deep fascination with the mind. You mentioned you lived in Fort Collins, and I lived and worked at the Shambhala Mountain Center for 5 years, which is Fort Collins. And it's a Buddhist retreat center, and I spent over the last more than 20 years of my life studying kind of Buddhism and studying meditation and studying the mind and perception. And I've also had deep interest in neuroscience as well. So I've followed that train of thought as well, as many have probably seen in my work. I apply that to how I teach certain things, like building muscle memory and how those patterns are created in the brain. But I've always had just kind of a deep fascination about all of that and kind of tying it together, the very secular, practical, informative science of things. But also there's something to say about the very subjective experience that we have as human beings, that everything one experiences always has a subjective quality to it. You can't have an entirely objective reality. You are a subjective experience observing an objective reality. And there's a beauty to that. It's what kind of connects us all as human beings. And at the root of that, I feel, is this state of wonder, that state of wonder is innate. Or even as Paul Harris said, he said, astonishment is not something we create in the spectator, but it is a state of mind that we uncover. And it's something I completely agree. I think it's that state of mind before thought, before we conceptualize and label something or have our ideas about it. It's before we objectify it. It's that moment before that where it's fresh, childlike, like looking at the world for the first time, and that there's infinite possibility in that. There's infinite beauty in that. There's infinite creativity in that. It's a vast state of mind that I've just always been so attracted to, whether it be through how to invoke it in my audience or how do I sit on my cushion and rest my mind and discover that state. So it's I've always had a passion for that, towards that, for some reason, for whatever reason. I am Danny.
Yeah, I can relate. You're probably too young to remember him live, but I'm sure you remember Doug Henning. And Doug Henning was a big influence on me growing up. Because for me, he was one of the first musicians I ever saw who wasn't wearing a top hat and tails. And David Copperfield was a big influence too in a completely different way, but Doug Henning was more of a laid down kind of guy that you might want to go off and smoke a joint with, and I always loved that about him, and I always felt like he really believed in the wonder of magic, and because that's how I always felt watching him perform. And sometimes I forget that when I perform, but I try to keep that sense of wonder going for my participants, because it's not about, as a dear friend of mine used to say, it's not about me anymore. It's about them.
Yeah.
And anyway, it's not about me here either. This isn't about you. So, yeah, no, it is. It truly is. So, can be a fun question, depending on the answer. Can you tell us an experience where something went wrong during the performance and how you handled it?
Yeah. Well, earlier while you're gone, I went to show an effect that I was working on, and I messed it up.
I saw that on my phone. I'll make sure to edit that out if you want.
Probably just to not reveal the copper silver coin, but
yeah, I can edit that out.
but that was a funny situation where it caught me off guard.
Yeah.
But for the most part, most of my stuff I've had if it's something that, for example, one thing I have used in the past is if I drop a coin, I'll say, "Oh, weird. Sorry, do you mind if we go backwards? Let's yeah, there we go." And I'll pick it up. Sorry. Let's take this back a moment, and then I'll go into like a little time travel piece. I don't try to revisit the routine, because if I'm presenting a routine and I go, oh, and then I go back to this, rather than kind of go with the flow, I'm making it too much about me and having my routine seen and heard, rather than going with the kind of flow of the moment and the audience and trying to keep the magic present. It's like, if the coin falls, I'll riff off that and just kind of keep going. Or if an audience member makes a joke, I want to take that and relate to it in some way with my magic, rather than kind of bring it back to asserting where I'm at. Just constantly playing to the moment and keeping the magic alive. So if I drop the coin, I may pick it up and do an anti-gravity coin. If they make a joke, I may use that to segue into something else. But I won't try to go, oh, look. An actual one thing I've done in the past is if I'll drop a coin and go, weird, I swear this was that anti-gravity coin, or oh, weird, let's go back a bit, we can fix this. Speaking of time travel, you guys have an interest in time travel? And I'll go into this routine, because for me, one of my favorite things is to imagine what it would be like to travel through time. I want to share you guys something really special, something that has traveled through time. But it's not the little purse. It's actually what's inside. And this is a Morgan silver dollar from 1879. This coin has traveled through time. Kinda. But it can almost get you to imagine what it would be like for something to travel through time, to hold something that has had such history, that has that potential within it. Even a small moment like a coin falling over. and rewinding. And then if you could take that feeling and stretch it out a bit, make it a little bit larger, it feels a little bit more like we're traveling through time. But if it was really time travel, the coin wouldn't rewind through time. Now that coin would jump through time. I want to show you guys something special, something that has traveled through time. But it's not the little purse. Have we been here before? Anyways, I have a coin from 1879. This coin has traveled through time. There you go. So that's a piece of mine that I call Through Time. And it's a fun little piece. It's like it's got a little three-phase routine and, bookends. You come full circle with it. And so that's something that, I'll go into that. If I drop a coin and go, oh, can I take this in a different direction and play off of the moment? Or a spectator, makes a remark. Can I use that and play into a routine? I think this is also a good way to make it about them and not about us, right? By relating to them, we can connect with them more deeply by doing our magic in relationship to how they're showing up in the moment. And I think that's a powerful thing as well. So that's one example of something I've done. And I've actually had to do that a handful of times because I have butterfingers and I tend to drop coins.
Well, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one. One reason why I got good coins so much. I used to do coins back in the 70s. I did a lot of Slang Genie stuff, but nothing like what you do. Let's take a little break here. I have a few commercials that I want to play real quick. So we'll be back in a moment with the marvelous Danny Goldsmith. Let's take a break. We'll see you in about a minute. Okay.
Want to become a patron of Magic and Mysticism? Want to become a patron of Magic and Mysticism? Well, now you can. By becoming a patron, for as little as $10 a month, you can help us keep having great guests, like the ones you're watching today. Did I mention that you can get merch from Magic and Mysticism? Depending on what level patron you become, you could receive a Magic and Mysticism coffee mug, t-shirt, poster or many other items. Just visit www.patreon.com/Magic and Mysticism to sign up. We appreciate your support.
Hi, good evening. Hello, everybody. Hello, how are we doing?
Hello. Hello. Oh, thank you so much for playing along.
You're not going to see the date on that.
Guys, it is such a pleasure to be back.
Alright, we are back with Danny Goldsmith. Wow. I gotta change some of those ads. somebody, not quite sure who this was, but it's a nice compliment. There are a lot of words that come to mind when you perform, Danny, but Butterfingers is not one of them. Lovely work. I'm going to see if I can see who that was. Let's see. Oh, it's my friend Trent Wentz, who is a fellow student of Kenton Nepper. Yeah, Trent is a wonderful performer and storyteller and a very good friend. So thank you, Trent, for that lovely comment. Well, okay, so can you tell us some of the highlights of your career in magic so far?
Yeah. Yeah, for me, there's two sides of things for my relationship to magic. Because one is my relationship to my audience, which always felt like an ever-growing relationship of kind of looking at myself and looking at the way that I perform magic and how people would respond to it based off of kind of how I showed up. And the other side is my relationship to the other magicians. As for spectators in my audience, in that sense, it was a kind of journey of showing up in a way that was a little like cocky and at times, and a little too making magic too much about me at times. That over time, learning how to make it more about my spectators, I started to see such a change in the way that my magic was responded to. People could relax a lot more. That challenge wasn't there of them feeling like, because, as magicians, if you take the role of I'm the smartest guy in the room, look at me, you're telling them that they're not the smartest person in the room. There's no way to do that without insulting somebody. Exactly. And that leads to this kind of challenging quality of them trying to figure you out. And not to say that a spectator's not going to try and figure out a method. They will. But we also want them to be able to relax, just kind of to it. Whether that's through really blowing them away with how powerful it is, or having a way of relating that allows them to relax and enjoy it. And the more that I applied this kind of gentleness of really listening to my spectators and performing for them, not for me, the more I saw them relax into it. And, I got to see more and more of my magic bring people to tears. And, that was a huge highlight for me, and seeing that shift start to occur, because the first time it happened, I was like, oh, but then it started happening more and more and more and more. And it's measurably noticeable that it had to do with the changes I was making in relationship to my audience. So I've always, in my own fascination with my own mind, I've always been fascinated with the mind of the spectator and how the spectator perceives magic, what allows them to relax into the state of wonder and let it really seep deep into them in this way that allows them to kind of surrender to the profundity of mystery. And some of the changes that I made, I started to see that impact, and I started to see people kind of let go more and enjoy it a lot more. And that was a huge highlight for me, and that it took a lot of work, as well as somebody who is wounded and I have my own ego and my own drive to be seen and look at me and all of that as well. I mean, as we all do as human beings, the progress of learning more and more slowly, more and more, putting that aside and making it more about the audience was a big highlight, and seeing how that affected my audience. The other highlight is creating magic and getting to put it out there. It is so fun to I remember the first time I tried to create magic for the longest time, and I just couldn't really do it. I was like, how do people do this? It's nuts. And then something clicked one day, and I created so many new effects, new sleights, new principles, um, and it was just kind of flowing out of me. And that was a very interesting time. I discovered my creativity, and I discovered how to set the container for my creativity, how to relate to my own mind so that that creativity could come forward. And that was a huge highlight. And then showing it to magicians and seeing it be well received has been a huge highlight. Building out my own website, releasing all my products myself, and having my own online store and being able to support my family has been a huge highlight. To make a living out of it and to be able to teach. And now I help run a membership with Stephen Bridges and Jacob Daniels called Magic Mastery. And it's so nice to jump on and hang out with people, and we jam and talk magic, and we teach things. And it's been nice to have a community in magic that feels supportive, where I get to continue to kind of share my creations and talk about magic and have a little society around this state of wonder, and always kind of bouncing these ideas off each other. So yeah, I mean, so many highlights, but those, I mean, that's them in a nutshell.
Wow. Yeah, you may be the first guest when being able to highlight that it wasn't like a look at me, look at what I've done, accomplished, but it's been more about look at what I've been able to offer to other people, and wow, it's very, it's very inspiring to me. I honestly did not expect this interview to be like this. So I'm very I'm very happy that we've been able to do this. So how can someone make an effect more theatrical?
Yeah. This is something I started exploring a few years back after I met Mario Lopez, and the way he performed made it feel as though I wasn't looking at somebody performing magic in this particular area. It felt like there was an environment of magic, and that I was in, like, he made it feel like the world was magic, not he was magic, the world was magic. And that being in the world, or at least in the room with him, you then feel like you're a part of it.
Right.
And that was something that felt like it encompassed that quality of theater. But I guess I hadn't really thought about how I defined theater in this sense. But theater, I tend to think of as something that is immersive. Good theater being immersive. So with Through Time, that routine I showed you guys, that's on a project I created called Mythos. I also talk about my mythos around magic and the mythos of the magic community, and we get deep into the psychology and the state of wonder and looking at all of that in that project as well. But I teach a handful of routines. That routine, though, Through Time, was something that I wanted to create that feeling of. I wanted to feel like it's not just the coin going through time, but we all go through time, and so that sense at the end where it's, travel through time and the whole moment replays, and the coin's back in the wallet. I wanted to have that feeling, and rather than it just be like, oh, look, the coin went through time, and isolating the sense of time travel to just the coin, if I'm going through time and the whole space is going through time and everyone's going through time, then they can feel like they're more kind of a part of the magic. So that was one example of a way that I tried to accomplish that. Another one I could show you it's fun. Let's do a piece of time travel here. Or not time travel. We'll do this. This should work. Yeah, maybe a finicky later, but that's okay. So I mentioned that my grandpa gave me these coins, and he gave them to me when I was young, and they remind me of a time when life was a lot more imaginative. And as adults, we don't tend to imagine as much. But magicians like to. There's actually this weird game that magicians play where they imagine these invisible strings with these invisible hooks, and then they take the coin and they hang it on the hook, right? Like this, and hang it on, and then the coin becomes invisible. Didn't work. Let's see what right here. I know what's happening here. Duh. There's no hole in this coin. How could it possibly hang on the hook, right? It just doesn't make sense. That's okay. We'll try a different method. See if we get the hook really hot. Let's just imagine. If we imagine that the hook is really hot, and then with enough friction on the coin, where imagination meets reality, we should, in theory, be able to nice, like that. Now I have there's another one of these here, this thread with invisible hooks on them, and you got to be careful. You don't want to burn the thread. Then you'd have a disaster on your hand. But if you get just the hook, we imagine the hook's hot, get some friction on the coin. There's that one there. I know there's another one around here. I think found it. That's the last one. So I'll hang that one right there as well. Now you want to be careful. The invisible stuff is sticky. You don't want to get this stuff on your hands. If you get it on your hands, your fingers will disappear. You don't want that. It's not good. So when you pull these coins off the hook, place them into the hand, you just need a little bit of friction. That'll get the invisible stuff off of the coin. You'll be able to see the coin again. Now we had another one right here. That's the thread. It's okay. If you find the thread, you know underneath of it is the coin. And then the last one is right here. Okay, that one's a bit stuck. It's a bit of a disaster. Oh, disaster. There we go. And that's 1, 2. So this is a fun, very theatrical take on a hanging coins routine. And for me, I wanted to take this quality. How do I bring that sense of imagination to the spectators and create that sense of the environment is magical and like interacting with the environment more, you know? If there's a metal hook, how else can I respond to it? Well, I could clink it, right? I could swing it, and I could do all these different things that make it feel like there's something actually occurring in the environment, and the spectators being in the environment will then feel like they're more a part of the magic. And I really took the time to think about this one in so many ways. There's a lot of thought that went into this routine around why do we hang coins on hooks? It doesn't quite make sense. How would you actually do it, you know? But then I have all these inferential details of not saying what I'm doing. I infer them. So I don't say I weld the coin onto the hook. I say if we imagine that the hook gets really hot with enough friction on the coin, we should, in theory, where imagination meets reality. So you imply it. So they have to be engaged with the presentation. So rather than the spectator be engaged with the moves and trying to figure out the moves, the rational, active mind is actually more focused towards imagining, right? So you're actually encouraging them into this state of wonder, this state of mystery by exploring the state of imagination, which is so close to that state, right? I never say that I swing the coin or swing the hook. I just go, you know, so you fill in the gaps, and it gets you engaged in that way. Because if the spectators are busy imagining and putting together and building this world in their imagination as you imply it, there's no room to focus on methods so much. So it kind of seduces them into that. that state. So this was a kind of discovery of looking at how to make magic a little bit more theatrical.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. Very nice. So now this is something that I'm very interested in, especially for someone as thoughtful and creative as you. Can you go over a little bit about what your process is when you create a move or a routine?
Yeah, there's a few different ways. In this case, this one actually came from a few different angles. So this is actually a good routine to use to talk about that. One, it came about presentationally, where I thought, what do I want to create? Right? You don't just sit down and go, oh, I want to create something. You have to have a purpose for why you create, because you can't create something purposeful if you don't have a purpose for creating it, right? So I sat down and I thought, like, okay, I don't like the hanging on hooks thing. It doesn't make sense. I've seen some magicians talk about the invisible shelf. They slide the coin onto an invisible shelf. But I felt like this got rid of the conflict, and every good story has a conflict, right? Of, oh, it's not hanging on the hook. How does this work? And then we come up with a solution, and it just gets kind of, weird in that way. But then you have the conflict of, oh, you don't want to burn the thread because, if you have this heat source that's occurring and you burn the thread, you have a disaster. So I say, don't burn the thread. We'll have a disaster on our hands, which then foreshadows this ending point when we, snip it. So I thought about this one really presentationally, and I just kind of sat down and looked at, like, how do I want to script this? What are ways that I can bring these pieces to life through sound, through imagination, through all these different things. And that was one approach. So sometimes it's a presentational idea. Through Time was just a presentational idea. I want to create a time travel piece where it feels like we all go back in time, not just the cards. So that was a presentational kind of motivation. I had the idea first. And a lot of times it comes from looking at what doesn't exist or what do you not like about something that already does exist, right? Like, I didn't like that so many time travel pieces. It's like just the object goes back in time. Like, if time and space are one, wouldn't everything go back in time? Wouldn't that really be time travel? So really looking at something and going, do I like that? What do I not like about that? What would make it better? Same with the hanging coin spot. The other approach is looking at moves and sleights. I loved Kainoa Harbottle's pendulum hanging coins. He had the first hanging coins where he had 4 coins. He placed a coin into the hand, grabbed this, vanished the coins in the left hand, which was so nice. And then he had this moment, he'd show these around, but he had this moment where he would then take the next coin and he'd vanish it into the other hand. So you've seen the left hand empty, you've seen the right hand empty. You have these moments in between that are really deceptive because of that. Oh, sorry, a little sloppy there. And, he had this back and forth with it, hence the name Pendulum Hanging Coins. And I really liked this. I thought, oh, that's such an advancement on the hanging coins plot, rather than it was just, take a coin, place it in this hand, grab this, vanish, take a coin, place it in this hand. It's like, well, I wonder where the coins went, But with pendulum hanging coins, you're just like, wait, each hand's being shown empty, but every phase there's one last coin. How is this happening? It was a brilliant idea of his. So I liked this, but my only downside I've had with the hanging coins plot is this. Is when you're in this position and you take a coin off the fan to place it into the hand to then grab the fan. It doesn't quite, that's a lot of movements for something that should technically just be this, right? You have to put one coin in one hand. Why 3 actions instead of 1? So I was like, what would I do? Well, the first move, you can do this, right? You can do this kind of classic move. And then I thought, okay. And then what if if I can't do them all in one hand, because then you wouldn't be able to, it would get back into the same issue that Kainoa Harbottle solved. So I introduced this move, which I thought I'd created, but I later learned was created by R. Paul Wilson, which he gave me permission to kind of teach this in a couple of my projects, so I have released this. But then I needed a way to be able to do the same thing again of doing this, right? So it's always just removing kind of one coin from the fan. My motivation for switching hands was to find the hook, and then you have this, last base of vanishing. So I always try to think of so I may look at a move and I go, how do I make this cleaner? How do I make this more motivated? How do I make this make sense? I don't like hand washing. I think hand washing is one of the ugliest things ever. But in this case, it makes sense. We're talking about this invisible stuff. You're like, oh, you don't want to get it on your hands.
Yeah, that was great. That was great, yeah.
Yeah, it's motivated, right? So you can use presentation to motivate things. So there's just a couple ideas of finding an issue, going, what would make it better? How do I solve that? And then this creates a parameter about what you want to create, creates purpose about what you want to create. So now you can create something purposeful. It narrows your goal a bit and makes it easier, because creativity is wild and free. So you gotta contain it in some way, Otherwise, and not always. Sometimes you can just play and have fun and that rolls in a funny way, and you flip coins around, do this, and you come across a discovery, and then you explore that, and it may explode into something else, and you never know where it may go, and that's a beautiful way as well. But I feel like there's value to putting a kind of container around it and having a very clear kind of goal. So there's a couple ways. I'll show you guys a fun routine that came about through that. This was a move that I kind of just discovered on accident. No, I had a goal for this one too. Anyways, I'll show you this real quick and then I'll talk about it. So I have a few coins here: Chinese coin, copper coin, silver coin. Okay, I don't have much of a presentation for this one, but we can get these coins to travel from here through the air and across to here. That's the first one, the copper one. The silver one in Chinese left. We blow, we get the silver one. The Chinese appears in between the other two, right there. It's 1, 2, 3. So this is a variation of a routine called Navi, and there's a couple reasons for this. One, I created a move and I thought, how can I use this? I created this really fun move of, I love the coin rattle, right? You'd have the rattle with the coins. You could do this. It sounds like you have coins in your hand and you don't. What an amazing idea, right? To be able to hear something and show your hands empty. Mm-hmm. Because with the retention vanish, the last time someone sees the coin is when the hands are together. So to be able to do this and make sound, dispels the whole it's in the other hand game, right? Mm-hmm. So I've played around with different ideas of accomplishing this that was impromptu and that I could do over and over again without any motion of the other hand. And when I discovered this method, I created this method. I started going, man, how can I use this? And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to make a 3-fly that like the hands never have to come together because they can always hear them, So sometimes it's, in this case, it was like, is it possible to create an impromptu coin rattle concept? Oh, I did. What kind of doors does that open up? And then kind of exploring that way. So there's so many different directions in terms of creativity for me. It may be that first it's, I don't like the way this move looks. How do I make it more natural? This type of move doesn't exist. Can we create one? What doors does this open up? And then exploring that. And then maybe later adding a presentation. Or maybe it's from presentation first and then adding the moves later. But yeah, there you go. There's a TED Talk on my creative process.
And you all heard it here first. years ago I heard Peter Turner give a lecture, and something that he said was, if I had 5 minutes with a spectator or a participant, and I had a choice to either perform a bit of magic or try and make a connection, I would rather try and make a connection with that person. And that I had already felt that way, but I had never actually heard it put like that. So, my question for you is, how do you make a deep and meaningful? I mean, I think you've kind of touched on this throughout,
Yeah,
but
we could zoom in on it though.
how do you make a deep and meaningful connection with your participant or audience?
Yeah. I love Pete, by the way. He's an awesome guy.
Yeah, I want to get him on the show.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
He can talk too. He's a great talker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for me, I find a lot of times people just need the space to open up, and if we're relaxed enough that someone could feel like they can just be as they are, then they feel open enough to share. And for me, I feel the best way we can do this is to be that way with ourselves. That if we are accepting of ourselves, we allow ourselves to be as we are, which is the greatest confidence. The confidence to allow ourselves to be as we are in that moment. Not to say we're fixed, we're constantly changing, but sometimes we're sad, sometimes we're grumpy, sometimes we're happy, and giving ourselves the space to be that way is honoring our experience, honoring the present moment, aligning ourselves with the present moment. But it's the confidence to be as we are, and there's a relaxing to whatever is present within that when we show up in that way, people feel it, and they then feel that they too can relax. So like, oh, this person accepts them as they are, and they feel relaxed in that kind of spaciousness because, especially if you accept them as they are, you give them the space for them to be as they are. And this is the experience I've had with many great teachers in the Buddhist tradition who just had this kind of ability to just allow themselves to not be so fast and goal-oriented all the time, but allow themselves to just honor the present moment. And every time I've ever been around someone like that, there's this, I feel like I could just slow down and I could notice what's alive for me. I could see what's present for me, and then I feel like I could share where I'm at, and I feel more connected to the moment. So I feel like I tried my best to do what those people have done for me in those experiences of showing up with that kind of confidence and relaxation and gentleness and acceptance so that people feel like they have the space to be as they are and connect with themselves as they are, and therefore connect with the moment, connect with the environment, connect with the whole of things. And for me, if it's like, that means if I'm in a performance, I'm performing magic and someone makes a comment, I'll acknowledge that. I bring it in somehow. I don't just go, oh, okay, yeah, and go back to my thing. I try to tie it in somehow. Like in the same way that conversation changes in everyday life, our magic should have that kind of fluidity too at times.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to do that in the case of within a magic performance to make them feel like they're seen and that they're a part of it. But yeah, if I have like just 5 minutes, I'm not going to jump into performing magic for someone. I want to connect with someone as a human being, and sometimes just asking someone, hi, how are you? And giving them the space to speak, not immediately responding, but just, listening,
Mm-hmm.
and a way that's relaxed. Sometimes all a human being needs, to just slow down and connect. So yeah, I try to embody that as my own personal way of connecting with others. and what inside magic and outside magic.
Oh, yeah. Wow. I love it. I love it. I put there's a typo. There's a typo in the questions. What one thing would you recommend to somebody entering a career in magic?
Career. Money. Money is necessary. We need money. For the longest time, I used to think, money wasn't necessary, and it was just my own kind of coping mechanism because I had so much self-doubt, and I thought the ceiling was so much lower than it actually was. And for anything in terms of career is look at what for me, what's been strong. I don't want to lecture anyone and tell you what you should do, but what's been good for me is to look at my motivation, look at my motivation behind that. Why do I want to do that thing? Why do I want money? Why do I want to grow in this way? And then look, what is the motivation behind that motivation? Where does that stem from? And go from there. It's because your motivation, if your motivation is strong, if you explore your motivation is strong and you have an intimate connection to that, then good. That's going to keep you connected with your goal and what it is you're trying to accomplish and how you're trying to extend into your world. If your motivation is weak, then looking at why does that motivation exist, and like maybe it's I want recognition. Why do I want? And then looking at what is motivation behind that? Why do I want recognition? Do I feel incomplete without recognition? Am I trying to share something? But if it's like personal, like, I want attention and I want to feel good, maybe trying to get that from other people is not the best way. And that's something we need to work on in ourselves first. Because if our motivation has an inherent quality of self-doubt in it, it's not going to be a very good motivation for accomplishing what we want to accomplish. So looking at what is our root motivation is so important. And then that said, notice self-doubt. Man, I had this idea that I would never make above this certain amount of money. And one day someone came along and said, dude, that's bullshit. I was like, really? And but someone believed in me, and I was able to kind of believe in myself, and I watched my career grow immensely. So have confidence in yourself, know what your motivation is, and don't put a ceiling on yourself. That's the best advice. The other thing is, in anything you want to do in life, deepen your roots. A tree can only reach as high as its roots are deeply planted. And looking at who you are, what is your motivation? Where are you coming from? What is your passion? What is your love? Where does that come from? Understanding yourself so deeply will allow you to extend yourself in a deeper way as well. Some people, their surface motivation is, I like magic. So then they go out and they perform magic. Well, there's a lot of magicians who like magic and they're going out performing magic, and that doesn't really set you aside. You're not offering anything unique there. Get deeper. What is your motivation? What do you love about magic? What are things you love about other aspects of life that tie into magic? Because the deeper you go into that exploration, the deeper your offering is going to be. The more unique your offering is going to be, the more you're going to succeed. Because you have something unique. And people love novel experiences. But that's quality of new. And there's something about new that seduces us into the present moment. It's not like before. It's new. It's present. It's fresh. So explore deeply, who you are, what you love, why you love it, your motivations for those motivations, and extending from there, I think is really important.
Wow. That was good. That was good. Oh boy, I am so glad we met today. Yeah, wow.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
Well, I mean, I kind of started. I've been doing magic most of my life, but I've only in the last 10 years have had that kind of confidence that you're talking about, as far as like raising the ceiling and uh, knowing knowing my worth, not only as a musician, but also as, more importantly, as a human being. Um, and so every pretty much everything you said today really resonates with me. So if nobody else feels this way, it's their loss. But uh, um, this has been very satisfactory to me and very um, cathartic to me. So I appreciate everything you said. Um, is there anything that you personally would like to talk about that we haven't covered yet?
Yeah. I mean, I guess we talked a bit about, self-doubt, creative process, all these things of looking inward. I think it's important. You're saying, in the discovery of self-worth can take so much time, and it's not a linear path either. I mean, I've had moments in my life where I really feel that sense of self-worth and confidence, but that confidence allows me to see more of what was kind of underneath, and then new pain comes to the surface and I like, whoa, and then I'm kind of knocked back, and it's like can feel like starting over as we uncover more within our depths. And that is a process. I mean, I'm going through that right now. The last couple of years, I had some experiences that allowed for a kind of profound state of opening, and within that opening, a lot of pain that I had not touched, a lot of self-doubt and anger and all this stuff kind of came to the surface, and it knocked me back quite a bit, and I've been working through it a lot the last couple of years, and just in the last couple of weeks, a lot more progress with finally developing a kind relationship to that part of myself, and just remembering that, to honor yourself wherever you're at in your path, your career, your discovery of yourself, your relationship to others. It's a process. Life's a process, whether it's learning sleight of hand or becoming a good performer, offering something valuable, connecting with ourselves, connecting with others, building a career, whatever it may be. There's so many ups and downs, and I find that honoring the present moment and seeing it allows us to really see how it's connected to everything else. And that's where true change comes, is having the insight into what is actually happening. And we can't do that if we aren't appreciating it, because appreciation of what's alive for us is an openness to what is alive for us. If we go, oh, this is broken, I need to fix it, we have this aversion quality towards it, we're not really looking at it. We're not really seeing the full picture of what's there to discover. So I think that applies to everything, like even just learning a move. It's just like, we want to, magicians do this when they're practicing. They don't want to see the part they don't like, and they'll look in the mirror and they'll kind of wince right at the part where they go to do the move. It's like, we have to open our eyes to what's uncomfortable if we want to grow.
My friend RJ says life is definitely a process. No one gets out of it alive.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. The whole process of self-discovery is for lack of a better way of putting it, is a real trip.
Yeah. This
but
thing
yeah,
we call life is quite the trip.
it really,
What is this? Like,
yeah,
really, what is this? This is wild.
yeah, it really is. Um, so I just want to thank you, Danny, for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you've had a lot of stuff going on, like good stuff going on in your life, and it really means a lot that you came here and showed us some really great stuff and talked to us about some really heavy principles that I think, very key in magic. I'm always disappointed when I hear people talk about how they don't really believe in magic and well, why are you in this if you don't,
Yeah.
you know, what's the point? But I get I really love your attitude towards magic and towards life, and I hope we get to talk again. Um, and yeah, so thank you so much. And
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great joy, and I really appreciate the way you hold this and container, and it felt really good to kind of be here and chat. And yeah, anyone who's interested in checking out my work, you can go to dannygoldsmithmagic.com. There's a free tutorials page on there, so if you want a free lecture and a bunch of other free content, go check that out. As well as all kind of
and among other things, get Silversmith because it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. All of the stuff is phenomenal, but get Silversmith.
That was a fun project, yeah. That's my first big project, yeah.
Yeah, wow. Yeah,
Cool.
I actually have my first big project coming out in November, so I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, yeah. But anyway, I'm gonna put you backstage for a moment, and then we can say goodbye afterwards. But ladies and gentlemen, the totally magical and mystical Danny Goldsmith. Yes, that. Oh, and one other thing. Thank you for being such a stand-up guy and uh, performing while I was having tech tech difficulties.
Oh yeah. My pleasure.
Really means a lot. And I will cut that part out.
Cool.
Yeah, because I'm gonna cut out me not being there too. So, anyway, I'll talk to you in a minute.
Okay.
Once again, Danny Goldsmith, and this has been another edition of Magic and Mysticism, the podcast. I do have a couple of brief announcements. Um, Anyone who's interested, my Real Wizard 2, let's see if this is going to come up or not. All right. Real Wizard 2 is coming up on October 16th, and then my Halloween show, One Night of Terror, is coming up on October 30th, and you can find both of those on either on my Facebook page or on my website, TommyBurnett.com. And well, that's funny. as it says, just cut the episode so that the episodes begin with him entertaining us all. Yeah, that would be good, but I still have to have my intro. But we're definitely keeping it in. It's only the part where he messed up is we're gonna take that part out. But yeah. So I think so this week, speaking of Propolis mechanism, which we really didn't talk about, but we talked about Peter Turner a few minutes ago. Fraser Parker is coming back on the show because he was on last year around this time, and he was having tech issues, so he was very kind enough to contact me not too long ago, saying that he was free to come back on. So next week is Fraser Parker, one of my favorite mentalists in the UK, and I just want to remind people that this show is not sponsored by, but allied with the International Assembly of the Society of American Musicians. And if you are interested in becoming a member of the SAM, you can go to www.magicsam.com. And if you have any questions or comments for me about the show, you can go to TommyBurnett1@gmail.com. And I just want to remind you that the magic is inside of you. It is not your props. And until next Friday, I wish you all a wonderful weekend and a wonderful week. And we'll see you next time. Take care.